Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Destination Truth, where we talk about the present times we live in and the struggles which we face, and we try to find truth in a world that believes that we live in a post-truth society. Understanding truth is more important than ever right now to understand what is really going on in the world and what is right and what is wrong. Currently, the powers that be would have you think that might makes right, and that nothing else actually matters. Christianity is dead. Religion is dead. Atheism is the new religion. And the only thing is right is being basically virtuous. And thus, virtue signaling is basically the new religion of the world. Right now, I'm playing a video in the background for your entertainment, but it's really not important pertaining to the message which I'm trying to share with you now. But if you want to see it, it is an excellent video called "The Bible Predicted Everything We See in the World Today," and I will share a link to it in the notes. What else I will share in the notes to this video is a link to a spreadsheet I've been working on for years, and it simply is a bunch of links for videos or articles that will help you get very, very red-pilled about what is going on in the world today. Now, what is this video about? It's called the War of the Ages, right? What is the War of the Ages? It's not Islam versus Christianity, necessarily. Although I do believe that Islam, as well as many other sects of religion on the planet, are, in fact, founded by and for the devil. And I'm not going to go into that because I don't necessarily want to spread hate, but what I do want to do is draw a very clear line in the sand to help you understand that the times we live in are some of the most important times in world history because they will dictate who wins this war. And the war is not a war of Christians versus Islam or Christians versus atheism. It is the war of the ages. It is a war between God and Satan. And Satan has founded not just Islam, but many different entities on this planet in which we live. And if you go down the rabbit hole, red-pilling yourself, there's many different conclusions that you might come to about who really is running the world and who is spreading mass propaganda to change your mind, to make you think a certain way or behave a different way. And many of these conclusions you might draw from the research you do may be correct, but there's many different versions of it, and the problem is believing any one of these things doesn't give you the big picture, and thus you can become radical in one way or another, believing that a certain group is evil. When in reality, I do believe that to have a big picture perspective is best. So understanding that many of these different conclusions you might draw, being that perhaps it is Islam that is the greatest threat to the world or to the West, that's one perspective you might draw, but also you might believe maybe it is Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, or maybe simply the Rothschilds, or just international globalist bankers that run the show and are using propaganda to sway the way you think and behave in everyday life. When in reality, I think it is all of these things combined. You see, the war that is going on is not a war of communists versus non-communists or Islam versus Christianity. The War of the Ages is God versus Satan. Understanding that it is not just Jews or Muslims or Catholics, not just Catholics, but more specifically the Jesuits. So if you go down the rabbit hole, you can come to all of these conclusions, being that it's the Jesuits or the Catholics or the Jews or the Muslims or globalist bankers. All of these different groups running the show, doing basically campaigns, using propaganda to sway the way that we think and behave in everyday life. Whether you believe it or not, you would not be able to imagine the degree to which the Overton window, the window in which we interpret the world around us has been subverted and controlled by a very select few powerful people with a lot of money. Let's bring George Soros into this, for example. He has given billions recently to the Open Society. And the Open Society from there takes that money and spreads that money to a number of different foundations or institutions, one of which might be NAMLA, the Man-Boy Love Association. One might be Black Lives Matter, and many of which might be feminist movements. Now, if you look within communist goals and ideologies, read some of their texts, some of their core goals is ending the family unit, destroying it from within. By doing so, there would be no fabric within society that keeps the fabric of your community together. Everyone would be simply an individual, which is very, very easy to control and destroy if needed. A lot of these things you should really watch, and I really hope you watch more of my videos. I want to keep this one in specific very short so that you understand that I don't need to use specific Bible verses to persuade you. All you need to do is do some research, and you will start realizing very quickly that the world and the reality in which you live right now is quite simply a good versus evil world, and evil is winning right now. The deck is stacked against us. And what will you do? I'm not asking you to stop doing drugs, to start going to church. I'm simply going to ask you to join the right side, which is not forcing people to do things. In my opinion, the greatest of all the tools that Satan has been able to found on this planet is in fact communism. Communism and the widespread belief that socialism and communism is ethical and even promotes social justice and a utopian society. This is perhaps one of the greatest lies of all, besides perhaps the first greatest lie, which was that the devil doesn't exist. This is the first and greatest lie in which he ever brought upon the earth. And many people to this day do not believe Satan exists, but trust me, his creations are all around us. I hope you do your own research, but trust me when I say this, the greatest threat that we face today is, in fact, not any of these individual entities or faiths or groups, but it is communism. And communism promotes everything that helps its agenda, and thus communism and socialists. The only real communists and socialists out there are a 0.00001% of the population, something like maybe a few thousand of human beings on this planet that have immense wealth and influence on the planet. The Rothschilds, George Soros, and many, many others. This doesn't even include the Clintons or the Bushes, who are, in fact, loyal puppets to these figures, which have much more power than they themselves, in fact. So again, to summarize, communism is a tool which is on the rise right now, and it is a tool which promotes Islam. It promotes feminism. It promotes the destruction of the family and destruction of Christianity more specifically, because Christianity is the enemy of the devil. Nonetheless, to put this simply, we are in the fight of our lives. It is God versus Satan. And Satan is pushing all of his agendas and pulling all of the stops and pushing everything rapidly right now because he realizes that people are waking up to his plans. And thus he needs to flood Islamic people into your countries because they are more easily controlled by him, because they will listen to their religious leaders. And the religious leaders are led by the devil. I just wanted that to sink in. So now that the governments of Western countries are not doing anything for their own people, and what they are trying to do is in fact unpopular with the population which they're supposed to be serving. Now that that is unpopular, they need to replace the population in which they're supposed to be protecting and serving with a different population. which happens to be at the moment one of the fastest populations on planet Earth, which is Islamic populations. Again, this is not a race, this is an ideology. But anyone that is Islamic is willing to forego wealth and simply have more children. The problem is, once the communists actually have what they want, world power, once the U.S., namely the United States, falls, the country on planet Earth with the without a shadow of doubt the largest military, they will use this power to crush populations worldwide, because they want a population less than 1 billion, if you did not know. Now, how long they will let the population of the world grow exponentially, I don't know. But if they had it their way, I'm sure that they would start shrinking the world population through war, famine, which they already use, war they already use, as well as genocide, as well as disease, as well as chemical warfare or other kind of warfare, psychological warfare. All these things would be used to spread enough propaganda to make war a worldwide phenomenon. Many of these things are prophesied in the book of Revelations in the Bible. Again, I don't want to use verses to help persuade you, but it is about damn time that if you realize the times you live in are changing so rapidly that it just doesn't make sense, you're going to quickly start realizing that all of these things that are trying to destroy the West and destroy Christianity, they all do have the same goal, and that is to defeat those who believe in Jesus Christ and believe in the good and believe in a non-aggression principle that allows people to have the right to self-determination, to free will. The right believes in free will, self-determination, and in living your own life. Where the left, or communists, or Ashkenazi Jews, or Jesuits, or Muslims, or feminists, SJWs, you name it, all of them, Antifa, Black Lives Matter people, they themselves, trust me, do not know what they are doing. They've been propagandized against to the point where they themselves do not know the big picture. They don't know. They've been propagandized against, so you cannot judge them in particular. They just do not know what they are doing. So, in my opinion, you must forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. But they are pushing the will of the devil. And they are pushing to destroy God's people. And just to be crystal clear, there's no race that is God's people. It is anyone that accepts Jesus Christ into their heart. And in closing, I just ask you, an employer, to do more research to wake yourself up to the war that we are in. It is the war of the ages. The war that has been raging for all time from the beginning. The war between God and the devil. And not all of these individual groups. That is to throw you off the scent, to convince you the devil does not exist, and he does. My words are probably not enough to convince you, so please, I implore you to do your own research. Go the extra mile and just realize that there's a war going on and that it's about time that you pick a side. Because if you don't, Satan will win. And Satan does not believe in free will, self-determination. He believes that you will be forced to do as he commands, or you will perish, or you will be enslaved. And that is not the future that I think anyone truly wants in their heart of hearts. Nonetheless, this is Destination Truth. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I only need to grow this channel so that I can simply reach more people with logic and sense and the truth, because I believe this is the truth. And the truth has been well hidden from the masses. And if this is news to you, again, please view my link below. You will find enough footage and articles to keep you busy for at least a year, probably. Nonetheless, please like and subscribe. Have a good night.